Welcome, wonderful viewer, to Clickbait Corrected, where I am today, tomorrow, and even the day after that, War and Peace, your digital host with the toast. I am once again correcting clickbait all across this fine internet, and begin with George Mills at the Dail Star, who fabricates a non-existent spider housing story into his headline. Man saves money on buying home for his two giant tarantulas by keeping them in his, all caps, mouth. The story: a man who they do not even bother to name puts two spiders in his mouth in a YouTube video. The article, it barely even tries. It just actually describes what happens in the video. Here's a quote. Seemingly quite content with their new home, the spiders sit and wait for a while before emerging from his head in a disturbing sea of legs and fangs. Mills then quotes some comments from the YouTube video, which really is the cherry on top of a textbook example of phoning it in. So what is with the headline? Where do you get the information that the man A uses his mouth as a permanent spider home, and B is in such a financial predicament that he cannot afford arachnid accommodations? Well, I don't think there is any information. I mean, did you guys genuinely, actually make all of that up? Why? For what possible reason? Did you sit down in a meeting and say, hey, that story we've got coming up, the one about the guy that puts the two spiders in his mouth, well, I don't think that is enough to draw the readers in. I think we need another slant on that. Possibly, has anyone considered a housing angle? I mean, come on. I mean, if the guy, if that is the case, why did you not follow that up in the story? That's really quite interesting stuff. I mean, if the guy can't afford a spider house, then he obviously can't afford a house of his own. Otherwise, he would just keep them all there. I mean, there might be a bigger story here, but we shall never know it, because you could not even stretch yourself to work out his name, or the name of either spider. And of course, does it look like he keeps them in his mouth all the time? I mean, he only does it in the video for a few seconds. I mean, how would he sleep with them in there? Surely he would end up swallowing them accidentally or choking to death. It makes no sense, Dail Star. Honestly, what goes on behind the scenes at these newspapers? Even if you're just making stuff up on lame spider eating stories, you will end up just doing it all the time. And worryingly, when it actually matters. Please correct your clickbait, George Mills and the Dail Star. Leading contender for biggest baiter of the century, Christian Smith, turns out more click-enticing caca at viral thread. This time with a headline even a 2-year-old would call out as nonsense without even reading the article. Facebook is about to release a dislike button. But of course, it is not. Christian relates the story of Facebook's experimental newsfeed Explore, currently being trialed by a small number of users who use Messenger. This is already quite confusing because Messenger does not have a newsfeed. But relax, I mean, this is viral thread. Most of the story will be based on absolutely nothing at all. In fact, there probably is no Christian Smith, just a clickbait bot spewing out nonsensical articles. Here is where the real baitery occurs, with a quote. It was announced that Facebook will be trialing a dislike button on its Messenger app on a small number of people who will have the opportunity to respond to messages on the app in a similar manner to the way in which users can respond with reactions on a post. Now, does that sound like an actual proper dislike button to you? Or are we just getting a thumbs down reaction? Actually, neither. Here's another quote. Facebook describes the dislike reaction as more of a no button, which they hope could prove useful to people who use Messenger for planning or group voting on a particular subject. About time, I say, because typing no was really taking up far too much of my day. Now, Christian, let us review what we have learned and pick out the correct headline for your story. Are Facebook introducing a dislike button? No. Are they introducing a new reaction? Yes. What is the meaning of said reaction? No. So the true headline would be, people at home, come on, let's hear it. That's right. Facebook to introduce no reaction. You see what we did there, Christian? We put the words that described what actually happened together. Not words that whipped out the ancient dislike button is coming clickbait. Just the actual words of what happened. Yes? Viral thread Christian Smith specifically, please stop what you're doing. Stop with the clickbait. It is becoming your default writing style. And you are in danger of spending your life as a masturbator. And no one wants that. No one. No one. Here is a headline from Heartwarming Blog, who do not identify their writer. It reads, Blind man sees wife for the first time, utters 2 words that put everyone in tears. The words, wow, she's pretty. Technically, that is 3 words, but that's not really the main issue here. In fact, for a very refreshing change, there's actually nothing inaccurate about this story at all, dear viewers. The blog shares the tale of Gene Purdy, who has Stargardt's disease affecting his ability to see. Television host Rachel Ray offered people with this condition the chance to trial new technology, potentially improving their vision. Gene's wife decided to sign him up, and they came on the show where an emotional Gene uses the tech to see his wife's face. So why was this flagged as clickbait, I hear you ask? It was for some very serious reasons. There is the minor one I mentioned, that Gene did not utter 2 words, but in fact 3. A little bit of semantics, but what really caused my clickbait detector to overload was the way Heartwarming chose to lay out this story. Yes, the dreaded slideshow style. Not just style, but split page style. Abused to the max. Have a look at this. Oh, it's awful. I mean, you have to click past 3 pages, 7, can you believe that? 7 pages if you're on a cell phone? Of drawn out drama before you get to the embedded clip from the actual show itself. Now another 5 minutes into that click, through all that daytime TV fluff, and you'll finally hear those all-important words. Let us ignore the separate shame of fostering a society where people with serious medical conditions are only able to access important therapeutic technologies on daytime TV, and instead focus on how Heartwarming have chosen to set out the story, which is they are using the tragic tale of a blind man seeing for the first time as a way to keep people emotionally blackmailed into clicking their way through ad-filled page after ad-filled page until they finally reach a YouTube clip, where another 5 minutes of ad-filled content stands between you and the answer you clicked to receive in the first place. This is the digital world we are making for ourselves, where the tragedy of a blind man is used to increase ad revenue. Ask yourself, dear viewer, what kind of world do you want to make? One with at least a faint whiff of morals? Or one where we exploit the sick and injured for our own gain? I know where I want to go. What about you? Oh, Joshua, what were you thinking with this bait-tastic headline? NASA moon landing astronaut makes stunning revelation about human-like aliens. Except astronaut Alan Bean did not say the words human-like, followed by the word alien, and no amount of punctuation on the Dail Star's part will change that. I must also point out, twice in one episode? Come on, Dail Star! Christian at Viral Thread will be getting worried. You're challenging him for his clickbait title. I am kidding, of course. Nobody is better at baiting than the master of baiting, Christian Smith. Back to the story. This is an interview with astronaut Alan Bean, one of the moonwalkers. From the headline, you would imagine he revealed that he actually secretly played some golf with E.T. on his last trip up to old Luna. Sadly, it is nothing but bait. Here is what Alan really said. I do not believe that anyone from outer space has ever visited the Earth. One of the reasons I don't believe they have been here is that civilizations that are more advanced and more altruistic and friendly, like Earth, which is better than it used to be, so they would have landed and said, hey, we come in peace and we know from our studies that you have cancer that kills people. We solved that problem 50 years ago. Here's the gadget we put in a person's chest that will cure it, and we will show you how to make it. Alan, your optimism speaks straight to my artificial heart. I truly wish the headline had reflected your meaningful words instead of implying you chilled in zero gravity with a human-like alien. Joshua Nevitt, Dail Star, when you have the opportunity to print the words of someone who has been to the moon, maybe try and tame the clickbait and tell us something, that actually matters. Oliver J.J. Lane, perhaps the best named journalist in the entirety of the universe, rolled out some fancy wordage for his headline on Breitbart. It read, Dutch elections, Pyrrhic victory as mainstream party clings to power. Nice, just nice word choice there. Pyrrhic, it's a great word. Now, if you're unfamiliar with it, Pyrrhic is an adjective that means a victory won at too great a cost to be worthwhile for the victor. It also has absolutely nothing to do with this story whatsoever. The story describes the results of the Dutch election. In this election, the mainstream parties won. Geert Wilders' Party for Freedom did not win. Where does the Pyrrhic bit come in, I ask? Did the mainstream party win at the expense of, say, the existence of the entire country? Or perhaps the life of every citizen in it? No, they just won, but by a slightly less margin than last time. Oliver, were you reading A Song of Ice and Fire before you wrote this headline? Were you? You can tell me. It's okay. I won't tell a soul. Be between you and me. Really though, just stop using big words to manipulate the context of events. Bad journal. Just say what you see. Roy Walker knows his stuff. That has been quite a few times I have gotten clickbait from you guys at Breitbart. It really isn't bright. Really, you should really stop doing it just because the entire team here is sick of my bright-related puns. Just do the bright thing. Okay, I'll stop, okay? Just walk it off, Breitbart. Try the whole being a journalist thing again. Remember, the truth is key. Another agency that could benefit from some alone time with a dictionary is the newspaper, in the broadest possible sense of the word, called the Daily Mail. That's really much more of a disease than an actual publication. On Tuesday, March 28, 2017, they ran the front page headline, Never mind Brexit, who won Legsit. If you are unfamiliar with the word Brexit, it is an unpleasant sounding term coined to describe the small island of Britain's decision to leave a club of other nations. In this picture, the leader of Scotland, one of the nations of Britain, sits next to the leader, sits on the left if you're looking at this with your eyes, sits on the left of the leader of England as they discuss Brexit. And no, I am not upset that who won Legsit is a question and really should be followed by a question mark, not an exclamation point. That is the domain of King Stannis of the grammar Nazis, and I leave it in his very capable hands. Nor am I here to discuss the obvious sexism displayed here because that is so ubiquitous in worldwide media that it would be laughable if it were not utterly heartbreaking. I am here to flag up how the Daily Mail responded to accusations of sexism. Here is a quote, not attributed to a person, so we must assume that the physical newspaper is capable of speech, something that reading it would seem to contradict. The quote from the Guardian newspaper says, "The Mail, meanwhile, hit back, telling its critics to get a life, and arguing that its treatment of the meeting to discuss a second Scottish referendum was meant to be light-hearted." Firstly, they were discussing Brexit, not a second independence referendum, which is quite an amazing thing for you to get wrong, considering your journalist was physically standing there in the room listening to what they were saying. Now, secondly, Daily Mail, do you understand what a newspaper does? I think no, but here is an explanation from my much quoted friend, the Dictionary. Now, you should really consider checking this book out. Now, it defines a newspaper. Now, newspaper itself is a noun. Apologies to my regular viewers. Allow me to speak directly to the Daily Mail journalist. Now, a noun is a word that identifies people, places, or things. Okay? Now, newspaper means a printed publication, usually issued daily or weekly, consisting of folded, unstapled sheets and containing news articles, advertisements, and correspondence. So, by your own admission, you were aiming for this article to be light-hearted. That is not what a newspaper is for. Here is another dictionary definition that applies quite well to your own description of the Daily Mail. A thing that someone says to cause amusement or laughter, especially a story with a funny punchline. Sounds just like the Daily Mail, and well it should, because that is the dictionary definition of a joke, which is what this pretense of a newspaper is, a joke. My dear viewers, you must ask yourself, is there a place for publications like the Daily Mail in modern society? Newspapers often make themselves out to be the fourth estate, claiming an importance on par with everything else, and yet this is what they do with that responsibility. That is when they're not pushing a racist agenda or settling lawsuits for accusing members of specific religions of being extremists. The important role of journalism, to hold the world to account, regardless of who they are, is being washed away under clickbait and the outright lies of groups like the Daily Mail. I refuse to accept it. What do you think? Can you think of just one benefit the Daily Mail provides the world? Even one redeeming factor? I would love to hear it. Please write in, because I got nothing. That is another collection of bait-tastic BS corrected, and we are one step closer to a more honest media. Unfortunately, we did start about 1 trillion paces back, so there's still a long way to go before truth is the norm for journalists. Join me next time, and if clickbait clogs up your happiness, send it to me at bait@clickbaitcorrected.com, through the Book of Faces, or Twitter. How was that? Reading the link slow enough for you this week, director? Haha. I told you not to call me on it. You know, I told you that last time. Don't tell me how fast to talk, because pettiness is my jam. It truly is my jam. Do not forget, shares save lives, comments can change the world, and of course, only those who subscribe will survive. This is War and Peace for Clickbait Corrected, signing off.
Clickbait Corrected.